Appreciate y'all's consideration.
Okay, Ryan, I wanted to make sure that these gentlemen understood the next step. Could you just stay there? You have a template resolution that you propose to send to us and run it through our attorney and have us vote on it at some point in the future. Is that correct? Yeah, could you come up so we can hear it? This is being recorded.
As soon as possible.
All right. So do you have that with you tonight?
I don't. It's on a computer.
Yeah.
I forwarded
So
to you.
who should we send that to, Vic? To you?
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And then we'll see that before this body, maybe November.
Okay.
Is that all right, fellas?
Yeah, I have something I want to say.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for what y'all do. You do a great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so much.
Okay. David?
Just a question. So it's true, right, that Kershaw County, we're the leader in timber and forestry management, or as far as timber from an economical standpoint as a farming product?
I'll leave that to Scott Phillips. I know we're up there, but I can't.
I know we're
put us
up
on-
there, so
yeah, we're pretty far up there.
So then if I understand what you're saying, prescribed burning then almost in some regards helps protect that product. Would that be a
Absolutely.
correct statement?
It's one of the cheapest insurances you can put on the ground.
Okay. And is it also correct that other parts of the nation probably see burning get out of control because they're not doing prescribed burning? Is that a fair statement?
You hit the nail on the head.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
you're going to brief California after you leave here, right?
I don't want to call them out, but yeah.
Mr.
We've been
Bozard?
doing our best to put that message out there.
Gotcha.
I'm a real believer in that in my property. Mr. Bozard, thanks for bringing these folks in.
One of your presenters that was supposed to have been here tonight is in California fighting fires now, isn't he?
Absolutely. I meant to mention that. Daryl Jones is the fire protection chief for the South Carolina Forestry Commission, and he would have been here in presence of Jonathan Calori, but he was called out to California to serve on the wildfire out there.
Yeah. We'll show California how it's done, huh? I'd like you to give a copy of these to the media that are here present. I think, Mr. Khan, you're the only one here tonight, but make sure he has a copy. But
Okay.
can we have a copy of these with us when we look at the legislation when it comes up too, okay? So we can refer back to this. Other comments?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for coming tonight and glad we can get this thing started, hopefully.
Yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks, fellas.
Mr. Chairman, we when this started, Georgia was the first one that tried to get resolutions in all their counties, and there's 152 counties, and they got 151 counties to sign on real quick, and reckon which one didn't want anything to do with it. Right there in the middle of the state, Atlanta.
Yeah,
So, yeah, we're setting a good example.
very good.
Sure are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thanks for what you do for the county and the state. Well, that concludes the public presentations. We move now to approval of minutes. The September 8th meeting is at tab B, which is page 5 on your electronic, and it's also up on the screen. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Gardner, a second.
Second.
Mr. Snodgrass, any discussion? Seeing there is none, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. We go to the next set of minutes, which was a call meeting to recognize the Medal of Honor winner that Mr. Connell helped bring to this county. And I guess you wrestled with him. It's at tab C, and it's at page 9 in the electronic, and it's up on the screen. Can we have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I won't vote on this. I was not here.
Okay, you abstain? Do we have a,
Make a motion.
Mr. Connell, thank you. A second?
Second.
From Mr. Snodgrass, any discussion? I'll only say what a great day that was for Kershaw County, and to see a young man, our 4th Medal of Honor in less than 100 years, from 1918 to 2015, is an amazing testament to the nature of the people of this county. With that, I'm ready to go to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous with Mr. Bozard abstaining. Thank you very much. And we move now to administrative updates, census and COVID. Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, a few brief updates for tonight. The census, for all intents and purposes, the census is officially closed. The Supreme Court today ruled that the counting must stop while appeals play out. The most recent figures we have is we had a 66.5% participation rate of self-participation, and then the enumerators went door to door. You see the map in front of you that shows the percentage of participation as provided to us by the census. Those figures are to be presented to the president by December 31st of this year, and we'll begin receiving that information in 2021. Moving on to the update on the COVID, you see the 14-day total in front of you there. We had 23 new cases today, which is a higher day than we've had in a little while. We have not really gotten too low. We've been in double digits for a while. Our daily average for the last, there's our daily average by month. So our daily average is up to 12.5 for October, which is the second highest it's been this year. Our monthly totals, this is just through today in October, 150, and then the breakdown by zip codes. This was the breakdown today of the last 14 days. And that's the update on it, sir.
Camden, 29020 Camden and 29045 continue to lead in terms of geometry and geography, and the numbers are high. Any questions for Mr. Carpenter on either item or comments? Seeing there are none, I'd only want to make one comment. Is encourage the council and the county to continue to exercise hygiene and masking and those things that allow us, within what technology we have, to protect our people. This virus is not changed, and it looks like with the increased activity in schools and as holidays come on with Halloween and Thanksgiving, we've got to expect that our elderly and vulnerable, again, will be at risk. And I ask you and urge us all to continue to keep this COVID in mind. It has not gone away. And as we have seen with the bitter loss of 4 people this past week, and one of them very close to this council, I ask your continued resolve in beating this thing until such time as a vaccine comes. And that's months away by any estimation. So, Mr. Carpenter, a very professional job. Can you pass those along to me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. No further business there. We move on to a series of ordinances. Item number 1 is the third reading of an ordinance of a county rezoning action. It's at tab D, and it's up on the screen. You'll find it in your electronic book at page 10. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce the topic?
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, you have in front of you tonight on third reading an ordinance to rezone approximately 20 acres of land from RD1 to RD2 located on Bishopville Highway. It has previously passed the Planning Commission unanimously, and it has passed council on the first 2 readings unanimously.
And that's from Mr. Wayne Keith Galloway. Can we have a motion to approve on the third reading? Mr. Snodgrass?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Any discussion? Seeing there is none, we move on to a vote to approve on the third reading. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you very much. And we'll move on now to the next item, item number 2, which is the first reading of an ordinance setting the millage rate for Kershaw County for the fiscal year beginning 1 July. It's at tab E. It's on the screen, and it's at page 26 in your electronic books. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce it?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight on first reading an ordinance to set the millage for the fiscal year 2021. This is the codification of the budget that has previously been approved. It is no increase in millage, and it generates the money necessary to pay for the budget.
No increase in millage nor in fees as well.
That's correct.
So, okay, very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Mr. Gardner, and a second from you, Mr. Bozard?
Yes.
Second from Mr. Bozard. Any discussion or questions?
Comment.
Yes, sir, Mr. Jones.
I'd just like to say that I spoke with Mr. Carpenter earlier and some other folks, and he's assured me, of course, we're saying that there's no millage increase whatsoever, and there's no increases within the budget. It's pretty much the same as it was, and it'll show up when folks get their bills. They can look at it and see the numbers right there for the millage from last year, this year. They're going to be the same.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
Yeah, good. And can I make an administrative point here? Normally, we do this either with the budget, which would be back in the summer, or we do it shortly thereafter. And so by doing this, this allows for tax notices to go out. And we're required by our protocols that we do 3 readings. And we want to get these tax notices out in November. And in order to do that, we need 3 readings and a public hearing. This is the first of those 3 readings. And I'm going to ask Mr. Carpenter and Mary to schedule a call meeting. So we'll have a second meeting before we have our next regularly scheduled emergency meeting in November, the second Tuesday in November. And why is that necessary? It's because we've had an emergency budget year, and there's been so much uncertainty about revenue sources that Mr. Carpenter has brilliantly, I might say, along with Sandra and the staff, brought in a budget that allowed us, with uncertainty given to the COVID impact on our economy, to deliver, as Mr. Jones said, a budget with no tax increase inside the budget and still staying in black. This is a real achievement. Other comments? Okay, well, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. It passes on the first reading, and we look for the staff to bring us back in here in the next week or two at a convenient time for the staff, for this body to vote on a second reading before the third reading in November. Okay, we move to some new business. Elgin Community Park bid at last. It's at tab F, and it's up on the screen. It's on page 28 in your electronic books. Mr. Carpenter, introduce this for us.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, this is the awarding of the bid for the construction of the Elgin Community Park, which we began working on last year. These are funds that were provided to the county by the state of South Carolina through the office of Senator McElveen. The low bid is Hawkins and Cobb Construction from Sumter, South Carolina for $271,650. Staff recommends the awarding of the bid to them.
Very good. Can we have a motion? I give the honor to Mr. Connell to bring it forward.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the low bid as proposed and recommended by staff.
Second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Bozard. Discussion. Ben, you want to lead off?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a project that has been years in the making. A lot of work with the state, with Mayor Emmons, who's in here, with county staff as well, trying to identify funds that would not necessarily have to come from Kershaw County taxpayers directly, that could improve and create a park around a beautiful pond that the county has near the Kershaw Health Elgin campus. And I think we've actually done it. Vic, my first, question would be, what happens with the excess funds? I've been in a situation where we've received more money than what the low bid comes in at.
Well, we will ensure that that all the funds from the state are spent first.
Sure.
And therefore, any leftover funds are Kershaw County funds that we can direct as council sees fit.
Great. Because I looked at our prior budget included $63,000 from Kershaw County, so we can reallocate those funds?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
That's great. But just excited about it. There's a lot of growth in that area between Ernest Health coming in as a large physical therapy location and the Kershaw Health's hopeful growth pending what happens with Prisma and a few other issues in that area. The White Pond Road exit is really growing, and there'll be a lot of economic development in that area. And this will complement it. Thank you.
Mr. Bozard, you had
Yes.
second.
Again, Mr. Carpenter, if you would, take your mask off when you talk, because I'm going to ask you a question. Again, just for clarification, where is this money coming from?
From the state of South Carolina.
Okay. State of South Carolina is funding this project.
Yes, sir. They awarded a grant of $275,000.
Thank you.
Yep. Other comments? Mr. Snodgrass?
Just want to say, Ben, thank you for going and fishing for some money and getting more than we need, because I've got some East Camden ideas that we can use excess for, so I appreciate it.
Other comments? All right, before we vote, I'll just say a couple of things.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yeah,
may.
go ahead, Mr. Jones.
One thing listen, Ben and Vic, I appreciate the way y'all went about this. I think you went about it the right way. And how you got the money from the state, I won't ask, but I'm glad you did. And, but Ben, I want to commend you and thank you for the way you put this project together and brought it forward and got the money from the state as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks should go also to, if I might, Mr. Chairman, Senator McElveen was very helpful in helping certain agencies within the state pay attention to us so that they could listen to some good ideas. So that he was instrumental.
Well, I'm going to support this. I think Ben and Vicki did a great job, and Senator McElveen, we appreciate all the work they did to bring that money to Kershaw County to where we could provide this without, riding the backs of the taxpayers in our county. Thank you so much.
Other comments? Well, I'll just say a couple of things. First of all, this began with an idea that Ben and I were exposed to when we went to the Hagues Creek residential group there, the homeowners association. And the great ideas come from the people of this county, the citizens, and an expressed need. And Ben jumped on it and drugged me and Vic to Columbia for a long afternoon with the PRT. And that's how that came about, is if we are responsive to our citizens' needs and we have a vision and they have a vision, we can get stuff. I heard Mr. Snodgrass say for his district, he's got some ideas. So if you've got a vision, you can fill in the blanks with support from legislators and federal and state grants that allow it to happen. I'd also like to thank the mayor of Elgin. I'd like to thank the chairman of the Hagues Creek Homeowners Association that helped this happen. And here we are with another park for people to use. There's a 10-pound bass in there. He belongs to me. And he's been caught about 4 times. And he's probably the size of Jaws by now. But again, I congratulate the team that made this happen. With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. And thank you, Vic. Move forward. That's terrific. We move now to council briefings, and we'll begin with Mr. Gardner, sir.
In light of numbers going up, I would just ask you to wear your mask and practice social distancing. Thank you.
Amen. Mr. Bozar.
Yes, thank you. Speaking of parks, I was eating breakfast the other morning at a restaurant, and people asked me where I was from, and I told them they was from out of town. They had gone down and walked through and visited the Veterans Park, and they wanted to tell me how pretty and so forth it was. And I said, well, thank you for that. And I was going to pass it on to the big boss man for the Parks Department.
Shane's back here.
And Vic, all your people, I want to say thank you because they wanted me to tell you all that. They walked the track. They walked all over down through the edge of the woods and so forth down at the river. And they said it was really, really pretty. And that it was out of South Carolina. They said they wish their county had something like this. This coming Monday at 1 o'clock at the American Legion, the secretary for the VA for South Carolina is going to be here. And Miss Barbara Ray is hosting this. All you veterans out there, if you want to be there, why, be there. But this Monday coming at 1 o'clock at the American Legion. So thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, Ben, please. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thanks again to Chief Brown, and also a big welcome to new Chief Alan Anders. I hope he continues on with that legacy of consistency. He's been with Elgin for many years already, and we look forward to his service in that town. And I don't know if y'all will grow at any point, Mayor Emmons, but the population sure keeps growing within your boundaries. I wanted to mention on the idea of working with state and federal representatives, it's so important to have good relationships with those folks. One of my ideas is really to try and repatriate tax dollars to Kershaw County. Mr. Jones mentioned a little while ago about trying to do things that don't ride the backs of the taxpayers. And let's be honest, the funds that the state allocated through PRT back to Kershaw County, we paid for them somehow. They went from Kershaw County to the state on some level, I'm sure. But the idea is to repatriate as many of those tax dollars as we can from the state and federal government so that they can be spent locally in relatively small government, which in my view is the most responsive and tends to administer the funds a little bit better. So those are the kind of opportunities I think we need to look for so that we can repatriate those dollars back to the citizens who paid them so that they can experience the benefit. And the last thing I was going to mention, Mr. Chairman, is the visit from Patrick Payne. Sergeant Major Patrick Payne,
Sergeant Major.
Medal of Honor recipient. I've known him previously as Pat, but I've got to dress up my attention to him now, was just outstanding. He wasn't going to come until maybe late November or December, but he reached out and said, you know what, this is home, I'm coming back, it's going to happen next week, I'll see you, make it happen. So we jumped all over it and took an opportunity for him to talk to the students, and he wanted to talk to some of the student athletes, and it was outstanding. One comment I wanted to share with you that he shared was he recognizes that Kershaw County has a warrior mentality. And I asked him what that means, and he cited the fact that Chairman Burns mentioned just a moment ago that we have 4 Medal of Honor recipients, and per capita that was very high for having Medal of Honor. And also he mentioned Purple Heart numbers as well, but he said the Medal of Honor is just, you don't hear that in a small county like you have. Another fact is that one of his teammates who was on the very same mission that he was on when he received the Medal of Honor lives in the area as well. And, it's just an amazing thing that you have these people locally who sacrifice so greatly for the freedoms that we enjoy and sometimes we take for granted. So we should honor and respect them, and I'm really grateful and proud that he received the Medal of Honor, and I hope we can hold he and others like him up as examples to the youth and even ourselves as we look in the mirror in the morning and try to figure out what it is we can do to make the country a little bit better. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I agree. Mr. Jones, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I would like to start by just saying my heart goes out to the Cato family.
Amen.
Bill Cato, Jill's husband, I've known him all my life. We were in grammar school together, and we've talked many, many times, he and I. He's my neighbor. They live right across the street. And I did not know that he had passed away until I walked into his council chambers. And I just like to say that my thoughts and prayers are with this family, this wonderful family, and this wonderful individual that I call my lifelong friend. Sort of took the sting out of me. I had some things I want to talk about in my council briefing, but I'm not so sure I want to talk about them at this time and moment, but I'm going to go ahead and try to get through it. Mr. Chairman, if we could we just have one quick moment of silence again for the Cato family?
Absolutely.
Please, if you would, take that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Now, let me just move on to a couple of things here. Ben is exactly right about parks and recreation. There's no free money, whether there's money from the state or money from any other source. But the way that this park is being put together, the location, it's not in a flood zone or a flood plain. I just think it's a good move. I really like that. I was doing some reading, and I had some stuff I did some research on. I was wondering, I saw the Camden Park, and by the way, the Veterans Park really looks good. You've done some great work there. It looks really good. But I was wondering why, when I was reading this article, it said, it was in the Camden Chronicle, September 18, 2020, and it was talking about that the county's legislative delegation and were able to obtain several $100,000 to put towards the project in Camden, and they called the park a joint project among the state legislatures and the local government and the Department of Natural Resources, Parks and Recreation. And then it moved on to say $500,000 came from the U.S. Land and Water Conservation Fund and $100,000 from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources to assist for future work on the Camden Park. And I would hope that we would be putting in for those monies as well. And because that would be a good way to try to move forward with the Veterans Park. It's no secret I didn't support it, and still really don't, till we get some other things done. But I'd like to also talk about some things, just for clarification, that happened at the last meeting, and I just want to make sure we get it clarified. And I'd like to thank Mr. Bozar for bringing this pretty much bringing this out, what I'm going to talk about. At the last meeting, I had asked some questions concerning economic development, and I was very glad to meet our new economic development director as well. And I do plan to take some time and get down there and meet him on more of a personal basis and have him kind of spell out the direction he wants to see us go or what he's got planned for us. But my questions on economic development was about the cost of excessive spending. And I think this is important because Kershaw County is, I felt like and feel like, is spending vast sums of money on economic development, and no new industry. And I don't think we've had any new industry here for 14 years. And if I'm mistaken on that, certainly bring it to my attention. But I think I'm correct. And of course, the chairman indicated that no tax money was being used for economic development spending, and the administrator agreed that no tax money was being spent for the use for the economic development on the issue we were talking about at the last meeting. And of course, Mr. Bozar and me indicated that, of course, as Ben did, all spending by Kershaw County costs taxpayers money some way, somehow down the line. What it boils down to is that there is no free money, and all spending has a cost to the taxpayers, as Mr. Connell so eloquently said a while ago, and I appreciate that. So to say that it's not involved, to say tax money is not involved in economic development spending is just incorrect. And a fee, when we talk about fee in lieu, a fee is nothing but a tax in disguise, and that's an original from me. I think I came up with that statement about 15 years ago. The fee in lieu of tax that is used for economic development does involve a fee that is paid instead of a tax and costs the taxpayers money. And the council, I feel like, just needs to know there is no free money being spent by the county, even on the park in Elgin. But I like the way you did it. And all spending counts and costs the taxpayers in the end. There is no free money in government, and all spending costs the taxpayers. I guess I can't go over it any more than I just did. But members of council, I'd like to thank you for your time, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Snodgrass.
Yes, members of council, Mr. Chairman, just a few notes of things I've observed since the last meeting. Took some time last week and went out to our airport, Woodward Field, and it's not in my district, but it's across the street, and it's something that's very, very near and dear to our county. If you haven't been out there, that's a really neat jewel that we have out at Woodward Field. The history out there, they've done a great job of telling the history on the walls out there. And as a history buff myself, I thought it was really neat, to have one of the oldest World War II training grounds still active, still in the nation, still being used. And went out there with Danny, who's runs it from an administrative standpoint, and just want to say I get to see what industry sees when they fly in. I know Target flies in there frequently, Prestige Farms, others connected with the equine community. I mean, it gets used, and you see what they see. And so I'm confident that when folks visit our county, they're getting a really good look when they come into Woodward Field, and we should be proud of there. While we were out there, we got to speak with some tenants out there, people who usually house their plane in Owens Field there in Columbia, but chose to come over to our way and house their plane for a couple months there. So they spoke highly. They spoke highly of the airport operation, especially since we shifted from FBO model to the current model. And that was a really neat experience to be out there while there's actually customers out there, and they spoke well of it. I know Danny had an event out there this past Sunday, a fly-in. I know weather wasn't kind to us, but it was a great first step, I understand, and just one of many events that we're working on to make people see the jewel that is out there. I also had a meeting with state officials and also people, just interested citizens from the community out at Goodall State Park. We're talking about partnerships with our federal and state delegation. If there's one with many crown jewels in East Camden, but one of them is certainly Goodall State Park. And we were able to discuss just over the years how we haven't got the attention that we should have received. And there's a commitment to rectify that and a commitment to move forward with that. So the longest kayak trail in the state park system is there in Goodall State Park. And if you're in East Camden on a Saturday, you'll be surprised at the kayakers that you see at the gas station filling up with fuel, either going or going from or to Goodall. They're stopping for whatever. They're heading out to Goodall. So in the last few weeks, Kershaw County is becoming kind of the kayak capital of the world, of the state, if you will. A little hyperbole there, but still, I think it's true. With the Camden Park, the Veterans Park on the Lugoff side of the river, and then also Goodall State Park. So just all sorts of options there. So that's really, really neat. I had a chance to meet with our new economic director, Jeff Burgess, and was really excited about some of the things that he was talking about, not just talking about industry, but also talking about commercial development, things that I've been talking about for the last 2 years, commercial development, opportunity zones, tapping into those types of resources. So just want to share a lot of good news. I wish I had more to tell you, but those are just, for me, just some nuggets of light, some nuggets of things that are coming down the pipe. They're really, really, really excited about it. Also, continue to wear your mask, and KC strong. Thank you.
Very good. Again, airborne, Rangers lead the way. Sergeant Major Payne really did us proud. I would like to tell you also the Veterans Park has already had its first marriage proposal there. And so that's it. So let's keep it up, Shane. Well done. We do have a national election on, if you haven't noticed. And so let's make sure you thank the poll watchers that help us, the volunteers. Boy, they do a great job. And they're already working right now at the arena. Get a chance to thank people who make us a better county by the dedication of their own time.
You mean poll watchers?
Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, poll workers.
Workers, thank you.
And then I need to thank again the Clean Community Organization. They passed out tarps through Vic's organization on the 3rd of October, and the Clean Community is organizing a COVID-safe Clean Community event on the 14th of November, and you'll see people out on the roads. And we'll figure out how to do that and do it safely. I want to thank the Mayor. Thank you for lending us your former chief and helping us write the proclamation. The sheriff as well, thank you. And also, if you want a good proclamation, have that other newspaper we won't mention here, Martin, Kate Goff, help you write the proclamation. She did a great job. As to the airport, it is our front porch for economic development. That and the sights and the signage and the cleanliness of our roads and the friendliness and professionalism of our people. Let's keep it going. We're all in this economic development together, and some of the things we do are for free, such as not littering. I would also point out that Mike Conley and the mayor from Elgin are working on a bus route between Camden and Elgin. Very good briefing. Mike, I appreciate you taking your time to brief the Elgin Council. And we have more work to do, and Vic has got that firmly in hand. But having a bus route paid by federal dollars to COVID is a part of the same theme that we've heard mentioned here by Mr. Jones and Mr. Connell and others about using what money there is in an imaginative way so that we don't have to tax our people for assets that we know we need. I join with all of you in grieving for the loss of those COVID fatalities, and especially send out to our treasurer, Jill, and her family, our condolences. Now, with that, I turn to Mr. Carpenter later on to give us a date for the call meeting. Now we'll go into staff briefing, starting with Mr. Carpenter. Sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, I wish to point out to you a couple events coming up. You see on the screen in front of you, October 24th is the Yak in the River. Normally that would have been in April, but with COVID, we rescheduled it till this month. Great. So, David, there once again, more proof that we continue to try to become a destination for kayaking events. It is available to anybody in the community to come. It is complimentary. There are limited numbers of kayaks available, or bring your own. Also, the following weekend on October 31st is the Halloween on Screen at the Veterans Park. It is an evening movie, free entertainment for our community. It is limited attendance, however, so people will need to call and reserve a spot at the Parks and Rec Center. But again, October the 23rd at Wateree River Veterans Park. Movie starts at, 29th, starts at 7:30 p.m. and it's Goosebumps, and it's a family-friendly movie. And that's my report, sir.
Shane's trying to get a hold of
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry. It is 30. Okay. All right. So it is Halloween night on the 31st. So
And
please
there'll be
remember.
no Halloween at the arena this year,
Correct.
correct?
That is correct.
Based on COVID. With that, Mr. DeBose.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. And with that, I'm ready to take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
So made.
Mr. Gardner and a second from Mr. Bozard. Any discussion? There is none. Thank you very much. We'll all move to a vote. And it's unanimous. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.